Upon awakening in a forest, a menu appears before Kelvin that conveys a message from the goddess of reincarnation, explaining his reincarnation circumstances, the world he inhabits, and his stats. Observing his stats on the menu and discovering that he is a summoner, the menu recommends that he journey to the nearby town and register as an adventurer at the Adventurers Guild located there. Without wasting any time, the two make their way to the nearby town, where Kelvin discovers that his former self had tamed the goddess of reincarnation, which he finds quite embarrassing. After reaching the town of Parth, Kelvin shares how Melfina became the goddess of reincarnation and how he persuaded her to be his tamed ally. It is also revealed that Kelvin sacrificed his memories from his previous life to gain additional skill points. He subsequently inquires whether he would be able to summon her. However, Melfina states that Kelvin cannot do so at this moment, as his MP level is insufficient. Shortly after, Kelvin converses with the guild receptionist at the bustling Adventurers Guild to complete his registration. Thanks to his understand language and literacy skills, Kelvin is able to read and write in that world, permitting him to register himself in the guild. To prevent drawing attention from the nation lords due to his title of summoner, Kelvin lists himself as a green mage. Once he is registered as an F-rank adventurer, the receptionist explains the guild's ranking system and relevant information. For his first assignment, Kelvin opts to hunt blue slimes for the initial quest he will undertake. Afterward, Kelvin acquires a wooden rod from the weapons store and proceeds to the grassy plains beyond Parth to look for some blue slimes. Upon discovering a few, Kelvin activates his S-ranked appraisal eye on them to learn their stats. Learning from Melfina that one must obtain a monster's consent by weakening them first, Kelvin chooses to refrain from using his magic and instead attempts to attack them with his wooden rod. Nevertheless, this effort fails, resulting in him being struck in the stomach by one of the slimes. Undeterred by this setback, Kelvin persists in battling it and eventually manages to form a contract with the slime. He names his new slime companion Clotho and realizes that he can communicate with his companions through unspoken connections. After designating that ability as his servant network, Kelvin summons Clotho, and together they defeat the slimes present in the vicinity. Returning to the town with sufficient gold for lodging and meals at an inn, Kelvin takes a side route down an alleyway and discovers a slave trader displaying his slaves for sale. One of them, a half-blooded elf, draws Kelvin's attention, but he gives it no thought. Later, Kelvin secures a room at the Spirit's Song Inn and partakes in a meal there. At the Adventurers Guild, Kelvin discovers from Anj that he has been elevated to E rank, but shows worry about taking on higher-ranked missions without forming a group. This concern arose primarily because Kelvin had concealed his identity as a summoner to avoid attracting unwanted attention. Observing that Kelvin will soon be aiming for D rank, Anj recommends that he upgrade his gear before taking the necessary steps toward his new aspiration. Recognizing the council, Kelvin requests to undertake a D rank quest. It is then that an adventurer named Cashel proposes he accept the Black Ghost Knight quest. Following his discussion with Anj about a recent successful adventure, Cashel introduces himself to Kelvin as a D-rank adventurer. A conversation among some adventurers in the guild reveals that Cashel possesses the strength of a B rank and is known as a rookie crusher. Cashel invites Kelvin to join his team. However, Anj warns against it, noting that the Black Ghost Knight is supposedly tougher than the rest. Conversely, Kelvin turns down the invitation. Kelvin utilizes his appraisal eye on Cashel to examine his stats and foreboding title. Thus, in response to this, Kelvin proposes they compete to see who can defeat the Black Ghost Knight first. Cashel agrees to the conditions, albeit with slight hesitation, and departs as Kelvin begins to strategize how he will manage the encounter. Cashel reconvenes outside the guild with his two dubious party members. Gmel updates Cashel on Kelvin's stats and abilities, while the other member, Raj, is directed to act as the gentle muscle against Kelvin. Nonetheless, he resists being gentle and asserts that he will deal with it in his usual manner. As dusk settles within the Wicked Spirit's castle, Cashel's group arrives in the castle's hallway, just prior to the throne room, where they stumble upon the remains of undead skeletons strewn across the floor. Kelvin emerges from his hiding spot, staff in hand, and Cashel's group internally acknowledges that he is a wind mage and considers how they will confront him. However, Kelvin calls out to the group that they are hunting him, leading them to assume that Kelvin is pursuing the bounty on the heads of Cashel's party members. Indifferent to that, Kelvin provokes the group, prompting Raj to step up and attempt to assault Kelvin, only to fall victim to his swampy floor trap known as Mudvine. Cashel deduces that Kelvin utilized his concealment skill to cast the spell, and acting on his instincts, Gmel fearfully escapes the area, only to encounter the recently evolved Clotho. A flashback illustrates that after Kelvin eliminated enough monsters, Clotho transformed from a blue slime into a slime Glatonia. Back in the current situation, Clotho swiftly defeats Gmel, and then Raj manages to escape his murky imprisonment only to be ensnared by Clotho. Consequently, Cashel faces off against Kelvin, who discerns his opponent's motives for hunting adventurers as they all find themselves bound. Wasting no more time, Kelvin enters the room where the Black Ghost Knight was located, and after activating his appraisal eye on him, discovers that his name is Gerard, along with his stats and skills. Kelvin expresses his interest in recruiting him. This prompts a civil discussion between the two, during which Kelvin learns some reasons why Gerard turned into a monster. Desiring to forge a contract with Gerard, Kelvin engages him in a duel, aided by Melfina's guidance and Clotho. During their fight, Gerard reminisces about the downfall of the kingdom he once served, known as Alcarl, when an elven emissary from the western continent named Gildora arrived and requested him to join the Lyzia Empire to annihilate the Empire of Deramis. The king turned down the proposal, yet Gildora cautioned about the repercussions of such a refusal. Shortly after, the kingdom succumbed to devastation, and Gerard's wife Betty and daughter Connie died. Returning to the present, Gerard pledges to seek vengeance for the land of Alcarl, which binds him to the duty of the living. Nonetheless, Kelvin overcomes him with combined efforts from Clotho. The following day, Kelvin submits the quest concerning the Black Ghost Knight and discovers that Cashel's group has been imprisoned and faces likely execution for their offenses. While Kelvin celebrates the successful completion of his quest, Ainge informs him that he is set to receive a further promotion from the Guildmaster. At the top of the stairway, Kelvin encounters a well-dressed elderly man. Kelvin encounters the Guildmaster, Leo, of Parth's Adventurers Guild, who employs his appraising eye on Kelvin to identify him. Inside the Guildmaster's office, Leo serves tea to Kelvin as they converse about Kelvin's recent success in vanquishing the Black Ghost Knight and exposing Cashel's disloyalty. However, Leo inquires if Kelvin is indeed a summoner, and after considering the counsel of his tamed monsters, he acknowledges that he is, but questions why Leo did nothing concerning Cashel despite his awareness of the noble's dubious actions. To that, Leo admits he couldn't take action against Cashel because he belongs to the noble class of the militant nation of Trison and required concrete evidence for his allegations. Getting straight to the matter at hand, Leo expresses his wish to befriend Kelvin, remarking that he has previously encountered otherworlders, referring to the heroes of the Holy Empire Deramis. Melfina notes that she was responsible for their reincarnation and assures Kelvin that she will share more information later if he is interested. Leo proceeds to elaborate on the heroes of Deramis, stating that the priestess there predicted the resurgence of the Demon Lord. Kelvin realizes that Leo wants him to safeguard the town in place of the heroes, a request that Leo confirms. He enumerates several enticing incentives for accepting his proposal, and Kelvin agrees. Subsequently, the innkeeper Claire commends him for attaining B rank within the guild. While enjoying lunch in his room, Kelvin has Melfina reveal her insights regarding the heroes of Deramis. Her details about the heroes were not specific, indicating they were selected based on their attractiveness and intelligence. After absorbing this information, Kelvin resolves to collect his reward money from Clotho, making his way to the alley where slaves are being sold. Kelvin aims to bolster his party's strength by acquiring a rear guard who has not been previously purchased by anyone else. This is because a slave's master has total control over the allocation of their slave's skill points. Upon arriving at the alley, Kelvin spots the half-elf he noticed the other day. The slave trader explains that no one wishes to buy her due to the curse that incinerates anyone who touches her. Acquiring more details about the curse from Melfina, he learns that it stems from the Fire Dragon King and that it can only be lifted by an A-rank white magic spell named Sacred Bless. After departing the scene, Kelvin later returns and purchases the half-elf named Aphil, with whom he becomes acquainted during their return to the inn. Kelvin also casts Sacred Bless on Ethel, thereby breaking the curse that had been placed on her. Afterward, Claire has Ethel put on a maid's outfit at the inn, and they both have dinner together. Later, in Kelvin's room, Ethel learns all of Kelvin's secrets about himself and is instructed to allocate her skill points as she wishes. However, one issue that arises is that they must share a bed, leading to Kelvin having a restless night. A month after Kelvin acquires Ethel, the two venture into the dark purple forest and conquer many of the monsters there to level up Ethel and help her gain new skills and abilities. Later that day, Kelvin's group informed Ainge at the Adventurers Guild about the successful subjugation of a wicked sage tree, and she congratulated them. She also tells them that completing one more successful quest will enable them to take the rank up exam. This would allow Kelvin to achieve rank A and Aphil to achieve rank B. After a short conversation regarding Aphil's last exam, Ainge invites Aphil to check out a new confectionery she discovered, and Aphil requests that Kelvin accompany them as well. Kelvin is then persuaded into accepting the invitation by Ainge. Eventually, Kelvin encounters Ainge outside by a fountain, and they are soon joined by Aphil, who donned a lovely dress that Kelvin praises, all thanks to Ainge's insistence. Later, they sit down at a table after buying some sweets, and Ethel tries to feed Kelvin some of her cake. This action attracts a small crowd of men who comment on it, prompting Kelvin to clarify, and not wanting to feel left out, Ange does the same with a sweet roll. More attention is drawn to the group as Kelvin attempts to manage the situation, but he is interrupted by Tabra, the third prince of Tryson, along with his 2 guards. One of the guards proposes that Tabra utilize his status to discipline Kelvin for his lowly commoner rank. Tabra also shows interest in Ethel and offers to pardon them if Kelvin relinquishes one of his ladies to him. Kelvin swiftly deals with the 2 guards and then uses a gravity spell on Tabra while questioning why he is in Parth. Overcome by Kelvin's spell, Tabra claims he is there to meet with Leo regarding a powerful adventurer he wanted to meet. Tabra intended to have the adventurer serve him, and Kelvin revealed that he must be the adventurer and refused to serve him. Once that was established, Kelvin proposes they shop for more sweets, and the girls agree. At the Holy Empire of Doramus Great Cathedral, Priestess Colette prays before the statue of Melfina, seeking an audience with her. Melfina responds to the prayer, and Colette provides her with an update on the heroes of Doramus. Satisfied with the news, Melfina gives Colette an oracle that the heroes must exterminate an evil in the Western continent and advises them to stay far away from Parth. After that concludes, the heroes arrive at the scene, and Colette conveys the oracle she received to the group. That night at the inn, Ethel expresses her gratitude to Kelvin for assisting her that day, and Kelvin thinks nothing of it, but apologizes for their continued sharing of a bed. This leads to a heart-to-heart discussion with Ethel feeling inadequate to Kelvin's taste in women, but he dismisses any of Ethel's concerns. The next day, Kelvin evaluates the statistics of the hero party alongside Gerard, Clotho, and Ethel. It is widely believed that the heroes' levels are significantly lower than anticipated. Conversely, Kelvin feels satisfied that he managed to craft a staff from materials dropped by a monster, although it is said that he encountered numerous failures before achieving that single success. Gerard remarks that Kelvin fashioned a dreadnought shield and a crimson cape for him. Ethel then mentions that she fashioned a sage's black robe for Kelvin using her sewing abilities. Claire subsequently knocks on their door to notify Kelvin that the guild wishes to speak with him. In the guildmaster's quarters, Leo informs Kelvin about a rank D dungeon known as the Hermit's Cave, where a hidden room was found containing a formidable demon within it. Leo also references an incident involving the third prince of Tryson earlier that day and the resulting issues. When asked if Kelvin would undertake the quest, he agrees to it. Afterwards, Kelvin, joined by Ethel and Gerard, travels to the Hermit's Cave dungeon and receives information from Erd regarding the circumstances surrounding the dungeon. The group ventures into the dungeon, and as they reach the secret room, upon entering, they discover a demon woman shackled to a monolith. Another demon, perched atop a mound of bones, introduces himself as Archdemon Victor. Kelvin then inquires about the identity of the chained woman, and Victor answers while sealing the room off, stating she is the Demon Lord's daughter. Melfina then informs Kelvin that there were 3 Demon Lords in history, and the lady must be the daughter of the current one, Gustav. Kelvin then asserts that Gustav did not have any children, while Victor clarifies that Gustav did not have any officially recognized offspring. Additionally, Victor reveals that he guides the group into a trap to consume and absorb their power. Victor charges at the group, but Gerard shields him with his protective gear, and Victor's intentions to become the next Demon Lord are gradually exposed. Melfina then remarks on how Kelvin's unpleasant habit has surfaced once more, a sentiment that Gerard concurs with. This habit involves Kelvin smiling prior to engaging with a powerful opponent, labeling him a battle junkie.